You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. Our source today, Migrant Workers Officer in Charge, Hans Cacdac. Sir, good morning. Welcome to the program. Thank you for being here and congratulations on your appointment as Migrant Workers OIC. Sir, first we'll ask you, what was your initial reaction when you were told about your new role, and how exactly was the news relayed to you?
Well, thank you, Ria, and good morning to your televiewers as well. Of course, we took in the news the other night with, well, on a somber note, we should say, coming right after the passing of our dear Secretary Toots Ople, who was a colleague and most of all a dear friend. But we know that the work, the service to the OFWs must continue, and we're thankful to the President for the opportunity for all of us once again in our department to resume our work, to strengthen our services and programs for our dear OFWs. So rest assured, we will strengthen the programs and the direction that had been commenced by our dear Secretary Toots Ople.
Right. Sir, have you been able to speak to the President directly since your appointment, and any marching orders from the palace when it comes to migrant workers? What are the priorities?
Yes, we have been in coordination with the Office of the President, more particularly the Office of the Executive Secretary, Bersamin. And the marching orders of the President are simple. The President, with his love for an overwhelming mandate for OFW, from OFWs, gives us a genuine opportunity to strengthen our programs and services. And so it boils down to providing more welfare and protection, better systems in terms of welfare, repatriation, and reintegration of OFWs. Of course, now we're in the midst of budget season. So we have the task of going through the mills of Congress, the legislative mills, so to speak, and then we're often running to the Senate on Monday to defend our 15 billion peso budget jointly with the OWA. So that we can strengthen our programs and services for fiscal year 2024.
Right. Now, it's been said that because Secretary Toots Ople was just such a huge figure in the world of migrant workers, her shoes are almost impossible to fill. But how do you intend to continue her legacy and the vision that the late Secretary had for the department?
Well, her legacy is one of building a home, a tahanan, para sa mga OFWs, kung saan we will provide kalinga, care, and all the programs and services in terms of carrying out our 1.2 billion action fund, which is a fund for legal, medical, and humanitarian assistance for OFWs in need. Before she passed, one of her last public statements was with respect to making sure that we file the necessary legal cases for OFWs who have been abused or who have also been victims of contract violations abroad. And also, we learned from her only child, her daughter Estelle, that she had wanted us also to focus on OFWs who are cancer patients. And along these lines, we still do have that action fund that can carry on as a medical assistance fund, as we have already been providing medical assistance for the last few months, and the Secretary was so delighted to see us paying off hospital bills of OFWs who could not pay their hospital bills, no insurance coverage, etc. And of course, there is the matter on reintegration. The Secretary had always wanted us to make sure that returning OFWs would have something to look forward to upon coming home. So we are currently, she signed a series of MOUs, partnerships, last June 7th on Migrant Workers Day with the DTI, with the private sector, and with other relevant government agencies to get our full cycle reintegration program on track. So we will do just this precisely in the coming months.
Right, so you have mentioned many priorities there and different ways of continuing the legacy of Secretary Ople. What would the timetable be for the ones that are on the top of your list?
Well, knowing our dear secretary, if she were here around us, she would say the deadline was yesterday. She always was passionate about getting our programs and services off the ground as soon as possible, of course, with the proper preparations. So we have started rolling up our sleeves, so to speak, and have gotten down to work. Yesterday, I joined Undersecretary Bernard Olalia, who heads our anti-illegal recruitment task force, in closing down a consultancy service called RTM.
Right.
In Parañaque, who had been illegally recruited carers. So along these lines, we will also involve ourselves in enforcing anti-illegal recruitment laws and partnering with the Department of Justice and other government agencies to enforce anti-human trafficking laws. So the short answer is, by the end of the year, we shall have taken off with all the programs and services that I had mentioned.
Right, and we will be talking more about that in just a little bit. But for now, we are taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. The Migrant Workers Department shuts down a consultancy firm in Parañaque over alleged illegal recruitment activities. The DMW says the involved agency, RTM Consultancy Services, has been recruiting seafarers without a license. Senior correspondent Lois Calderon has more.
7 months of waiting to board a ship had been in vain for this aspiring seafarer. He was picking up his check from this office in Parañaque as his recruiter returns his money, but he ends up in a sort of crossfire. Law enforcers and operatives from the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, swooped down on his recruiter's office. They serve a closure order on grounds the agency is an alleged legal recruiter.
Yung sa akin lang, makuha ko lang yung binayad ko. Pero di ko akalain na ganito. Hindi ko alam na darating sila.
Ang kakasuhan ay yung may-ari ng establishmento, yung RTM Consultancy Services. Yung may-ari, yung manager at sino man pang nakikita natin na involved sa mismong akto ng pag-recruit.
RTM's corporate registration papers showed it's a consultancy firm, but was recruiting seafarers without a license.
At meron pang isang napakalaking kasalanan na naganang placement fee. Sa halaga higit kumulang 100,000 ang tinaga sa mga complainants natin.
This seafarer is now worried he might not get his money back.
Check in, ma'am. Yung 50,000 bukas pa. Yung another 65,000 is sa 20 pa. Di ko alam, ma'am, kung may laman yun. Kasi sa nangyari.
More complaints emerge. The DMW closure order says a chief cook was supposed to be deployed to Dubai. He was promised $900 each month, or about 50,000 pesos. Another was an engine cadet who's supposed to make $350 a month. The closure order states RTM mulcted 105,000 pesos from each of them. DMW says seafarers can land jobs even without a placement fee. It's not clear if RTM had been successful at all in deploying seafarers abroad.
Ito'y kasama pa sa investigasyon na isasagawa natin. But definitely, yung tatlong complainants natin ay hindi nakaalis yun.
CNN Philippines tried to get the side of RTM, but its staff refused the interview request and walked away. For those aspiring to work abroad, check first if your recruiter has a license or seek advice from the DMW. Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
Now let's go back to our source today, Migrant Workers Officer in Charge, Hans Cacdac. Sir, welcome back to the program. So you mentioned this actually before the break. We can go further into detail with it now. Obviously, a case of illegal recruitment here. Paano ito nakarating sa inyo, and has this organization been able to deploy any seafarers?
Yes, we had at least 3 complainants come forward and mentioned to us that they had not been deployed, number 1, and number 2, they had been charged placement fees, even as the law says seafarers should not pay such placement or recruitment fees. And then, pangatlo, walang recruitment license. Itong RTM. In fact, it was just a mere consultancy service. So we need to make sure that the public knows na wala yun sa pangalan ng establishmento. They can call themselves consultancy services 10 times over. But if that consultancy service performs recruitment, selection, interviewing, enlisting, selecting, promising employment, and most especially charging recruitment or placement fees, then that very well is recruitment. And if you do so without a license, that is illegal recruitment, and that is a criminal offense punishable under law.
All right. Since it is a criminal offense, has a case been filed against RTM Consultancy already? And who are the owners? What do we know about them? Yes,
we will file a case. We have filed a case with the DOJ, Prosecutorial Service. The owner, of course, will be subjected to this particular investigation under the prosecution service of the DFA. We also noted that the owner actually had a negative track record. He had been part of 2 canceled recruitment agencies in the past, in 2010 and 2014, I believe. So he has a very deplorable track record that needs to be looked into during the investigation. And of course, needless to say, there will be an information filed in court if the prosecutor finds probable cause in terms of charging the owner with illegal recruitment. And not just the owner, any individual within the office who had actually performed the act of recruitment.
Now, unfortunately, it's very unlikely that this is an isolated case. How many more agencies operating like this one are you monitoring, sir?
Yes, we monitor a number of consultancy services, and they're quite a handful. Almost every day, our surveillance operatives are out there monitoring the consultancy services, immigration consultancy services who actually perform recruitment. Of course, there are honest to goodness consultancy services, but there are many who actually perform recruitment services. So beware, and to the public, please avoid consultancy firms who actually recruit. And in the case of these consultancy services we met yesterday, it was so clear. We visited yesterday. It was so clear that they did not have the recruitment license because they all had all sorts of permits hanging on their wall, except for the DMW recruitment license.
All right, sir. There have been very few convictions of illegal recruiters. How can this be changed?
Yes, we are looking toward cooperating with the DOJ in terms of increasing not just our illegal recruitment convictions, but labor trafficking convictions. Because as you know, illegal recruitment is recruiting without a license, but trafficking is a little bit more. It delves into exploitation, deceit, and other forms of or acts constituting human trafficking. So we will also cooperate with the IACA, the Interagency Council Against Trafficking. We're currently also looking into student visa scams or student visa offers that really amount to work. abroad without a license on the part of the recruiting entity. So we are also delving into these areas so that we are monitoring illegal recruiters who offer consultancy or student visa processing, but actually recruit for work abroad without a license. So just beware. This is a very strong, fair warning to the perpetrators.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate your time this morning. That was Migrant Workers Officer in Charge, Hans Cacdac. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanjuatco-Trillo. You're watching CNN Philippines.